Good evening.
Good evening, everybody.
God bless you, everybody. Thank you for tuning in real quickly. Welcome to yet another edition again of Begin Again, or second time around, or next time around. I am your host, Dr. Ray Johnson. I'm here with my lovely bride,
Alitash Kebebe Johnson.
Alitash Kebebe Johnson. What you hear playing in the background, Sunday Kind of Love by Israel Houghton. That's what we walked in on coming down the aisleway.
Or walked out.
Well, we walked out of it. That wasn't the entrance. Actually, you actually sang to me on the entrance song, trying to make me cry and stuff. Nobody got time for all that. But listen, thank you all for tuning in on tonight. Make sure that you share this and grab as many people in as you can on tonight. I'm excited with the opportunity to actually be with us on tonight. I happen to be an author, educator, and leadership development coach, and wanting to help people, honey, come around and develop their second time or next time or best time around relationship. Tell them who you happen to be as well.
I am a work in progress.
We got jokes early tonight.
I am a worshiper, a writer, and a woman in love with Ray Johnson.
You happen to be a woman in love with, well, I'm a man in love with Alitash Kebebe Johnson. You know, we've been having this conversation over the last, I would say, year or two in regards to relationships. And we originally started out with an understanding about dealing with toxicity levels in regards to how well relationships connect in and how well they don't connect in. And so you developed something, God bless you, Sister Erica. Thank you for tuning in tonight.
Erica.
You developed something called the acid test, and where we actually measure the toxicity level in regards to, you know, determining whether something is toxic, that's a relationship you want to get out of, or whether something is basic. And we had this chart, and we'll eventually get back to that very, very soon. But the most important thing about that is the pH levels in regards to that. And that for us stands for personal happiness. And so in regards to that personal happiness, what we thought we'd do is share a little bit about what we've learned along the way. And not that we've gotten everything perfect and everything together, but we're sharing some nuggets of truth in regards to how to be able to maintain and develop second time, next time, healthy relationships, or maybe this is your first time around. And so talk to us a little bit tonight about why somebody should watch tonight's podcast.
You always give me that one.
Yeah.
Well, tonight or any night, if you are curious about whether or not a second time relationship could work, if you can begin again, like you said, we don't have it all. We don't have it perfectly laid out. We don't have all the answers, but God has given us some clues on what works and what doesn't, And the thing about, because we're still fairly new going into our second year, even though we've both been married individually for decades.
Right.
When you come into a new relationship, that thing is brand new and you want all the help you can get. I love what someone else says, that I like to win. And so if you want to win, you're going to get whatever it takes. Find out whatever information is going to enhance and improve your relationship. What you don't want to do is end up somewhere lost and not know where to go to find help and not know where the answers are. Perhaps we can just provide a couple of clues, maybe a few little hints and know-hows and what we've experienced. And I pray that because of the purpose that God has brought us together, that it will leave purpose with you. It will leave an intentionality of growing your relationship, an intentionality of finding out, God, why are we really together? Why have you called us together? And what are we going to do about it?
I think that is absolutely accurate and appropriate at the same time. There's been much happening in the news media in regards to sports, in particular relationships. And so I'm sure everyone is already familiar with, God bless you, Sister Cynthia Smith, for tuning in on tonight. Share this. This is going to be a good one tonight. You know, honey, there's been much conversation around Nia Long and Ime Udoka, and he happens to be the head coach of the Boston Celtics. And a lot's been taking place surrounding the conversation with the inappropriate relationship that he had with an alleged staff member. And so many people are having a narrative all throughout Twitter and social media and all different kinds of platforms. And the question is being asked, can Black men, quote unquote, be faithful? And what's taking place in regards to the dynamic of that relationship. I don't want to spend the lion's share of our time tonight discussing that particular aspect of it. Can men in general, or can Black men in general? Because you and I both know infidelity happens on all sides of it, all facets of the relationships. So what I want to focus in on tonight are keys that we can kind of give away to help relationship couples stay together. And in regards to tonight's topic, you know, a lot of people spend a lot of time blaming others.
Right.
And so tonight I thought to ask the question, whose fault is it now? You know, when the bills don't get paid, whose fault is it? When the kids don't get picked up from school, whose fault is it? When things go awry in the relationship, whose fault is it? And everyone spends so much time pointing fingers that we don't spend enough time talking about the things that are solution oriented in terms of the things that work. And so tonight I thought I'd bring a little bit of help as we kind of engage tonight on whose fault is it, to kind of look at what are some keys and things that we can actually give to help relationships stay stable, so that we can avoid that big D word, divorce, and then we can also avoid the disaster of a breakup and things that happen and all the impacts that take place. Before we get into it all the way tonight, I found this clip I was watching. You know, I'm always looking for research material. So I saw this particular clip and this conversation about divine masculine and divine feminine. Now, I don't want you to tune away from us a little bit too fast, because no, we're not going into spiritism, but I want you to hear some of the content of what it is that they have to say. Then we'll come right back. Take just for a second, take a look at this.
Masculine attracts feminine and feminine attracts masculine. What does the world think is masculine energy? It's the highly successful, A-type, highly driven, Ferrari, Rolex wearing masculine. I hate to break it to you guys, but that is the most scared man on the planet. The man who is in his divine masculine doesn't need the Ferrari, doesn't need absolutely anything. So what is happening is the wounded woman is attracting the wounded man. Only the healed woman can attract the healed man. Only the divine feminine can attract the divine masculine. Feminine attracts masculine. What does the world think is masculine energy? It's the attracts feminine and feminine attracts masculine.
I start thinking about it from this standpoint. He said only the divine masculine attracts the divine feminine. Divine feminine attracts the divine masculine. And what he said was interesting. I don't want you to focus in on that divine part, because you and I both know that we only have a measure of divinity as a result of having the presence of the Holy Spirit living in our lives. And so we are not, as human beings, we are not gods here on earth. That's not the idea. But the idea is this, that we are created uniquely masculine, you created uniquely feminine. And what is interesting about this is that it takes a person who is healed. That's what he said. So when you have wounded people attracting other wounded people, then what can end up taking place are all kinds of disasters, divorces, infidelities, betrayals, and relationships. And a lot of times what we misunderstand is that hurting people tend to hurt people.
Correct.
So it's important to look for people who are healed and are prepared and ready to engage in a second time or next time around relationship, which is to say this. Go ahead. No, go ahead before I move to the first point.
Pain is everywhere.
Yeah.
Even the most healed person still has a measure of pain operating in them. And sometimes we're not aware of it until a situation or a circumstance brings it out. I believe the what we're looking for, you know, we do attract what we are. Sometimes people say the law of attraction, but we attract what we are, just like we reproduce what we are. And we start seeing things around us because that's what's in us. But a healed person, yes, essentially what he was saying is that healed people attract healed people, and broken people attract broken people. It's almost like that that mantra, misery loves company. But joy is also infectious. So there's two sides of it that we have to consider. But yes, and because there's so much pain in the world, but when it comes to relationships, we want to be careful about what kind of pain that person is carrying, because we're not dismissing everyone who has a pain, because pain is a reality of life, and you cannot escape pain. It's just there. Someone leaves, someone dies. You know, there's pain that is existing in the world. So it's a matter of what kind of pain. Is it a relationship pain where they have not been able to move forward from that? And I think we need to clarify maybe just a little bit. And we're talking about when it comes to trying to start a new relationship. Have we healed from the previous one.
Right, because if you haven't taken time to heal from that, somewhere along the line, something in you is going to be awakened or rise up or have arisen that will lead you to a place that creates what we see in popular culture of today, a lack of commitment and fidelity and those kind of things, which leads me to say the very first one tonight. When we start to talk about the question, whose fault is it now? One of the reasons I think that the current climate is the way that it is because we as a culture lack an understanding about the concept of relationship. And what I mean by that is this: we have to develop a proper understanding of relationships, covenants, and connections. And all too often, when we engage in them, we don't come in them with what I would call heaven's mindset. How can I serve and be a blessing to this person? And how can God use me to touch their lives, to either bring healing or to help bring hope, or to watch this novelty word be of a help to them in their lives? But oftentimes our concept is with them, what's in it for me, and what have you done for me lately kind of thing. And this is what causes so much friction and so much trouble and so much strain. And that eventually begins to lead to other things that can take place, like current culture that's going on around us right now. And we played the blame game too much. Go ahead. Any thoughts on that concept at all that you want to share? Oh, you just here tonight.
I was keep listening. You were on the floor. I was just sitting here listening. I said, yeah, that's right. Yeah. But not too much. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, which is to say, my second one has to do with this one: character. Who are you as a person?
Right.
So when you start to think about current climate and current culture, your character is not what you do. Your character is who you are. True. And so when you start to think about who you are that person when your spouse is with you. You are that person when your supervisor is watching. You are that person. Here's one for young people growing up: when your parents are present and when your parents are not. Right. It's got to do with who you are. Character goes a long way to preserving relationships, to helping things remain solid. So when we start to talk about whose fault is it, when you have the concept, it's never an I, it's always a we and an us when your concept is adjusted. When you have character, it has to do with, I'm going to be who I am, regardless if there's an accountability measure in place or not. I brought something else tonight that I thought we should take a look at in regards to this, that I want to speak to tonight, that will help us crystallize this even the more. Take a look at this.
My wife, in order for you to start doing wife things.
I mean, I'm just a girlfriend.
Okay. Okay. Shatrika, do you want to marry me?
Yes.
Why?
Because you a provider, a protector. You watch out for me. I love you. Why would I not want to marry you?
I appreciate that, and I love you too. So what you're saying to me is, those are the things you want your husband to do.
Yes.
So you see your husband in me.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So the thing I'm doing right now, even though I'm not your husband, you want your husband to do. And the crazy thing is, that's just who I am. Not because this is what I feel like I have to do. I do it because that's who Jeremy is. I'm already a husband. I'm just not your husband yet. Make you.
Wow. He said, this is who I already am. This is what I already do. Which is to say this: when we start to think about both concept and we start to think about character, when we start to think about both of those, here's what we come to find out. What we find out is you're a wife or a husband, honey, before you get married, before you say I do, because the attributes are there. I think about a preacher friend of mine from Full Gospel Baptist Fellowship, Pastors Beacon Light Baptist Church down there in New Orleans, Bishop Darrell Brister. And he says these words. He says, when we stand at the altar with people and we begin to introduce them and we pronounce them, I now pronounce you husband and wife. He said, we should stop saying that. He said, I now pronounce you man and woman, because it takes a while for you developed to become husband and wife. That happens over time. But if you don't have the character of a husband, that developmental process can go on as long as it needs to go on to but you'll never be a husband. If you don't have the character of being a wife, that developmental process can go on as long as it want to, but you'll never be a wife. And all of that comes back to those main two of concept and character. I think those are keys to help keep relationships together, so that there's a level of, I'm getting ready to give away my last one, and I'm trying my best not to. Those help to incubate and stabilize the relationships so that they work well together. Go ahead.
We had a question. Actually, we had a question from Chester. What about opposite attractions? And I think that's in reference to we attract what we are.
Right.
Now, opposites do. Breaking point, that's one thing. But if it's something, if this person doesn't believe in God and you believe in God, that's a breaking point. If this person believes in saving, and another person believes in being frivolous and carefree and don't care about the future, then maybe that's something that you have to look out for, because you can be opposite as far as personality and likes and dislikes, but your value systems need to attract the same value systems, because you don't want that to be an issue that comes up later on. That can be a divisive factor.
Absolutely. And so when value systems are actually the same and are consistent, it is so important for us to make sure that there's an alignment between the two in terms of us actually being able to be together on the same page, because values are things that we make decisions by. And so since values are things, all of a sudden we can find ourselves in difficult moments and in difficult spaces that keep us pulled far apart from each other. And so when we don't say it, share, you all cannot see us. And so we'll get our camera right back on in just different sides of the spectrum. There we are again. Let me say what I was saying yet once again. Y'all bear with us tonight. Something's going on with our camera, but just hang in with us. When we start to talk about values attracting or opposites attracting, it has more to do with values consistent. So for example, lady goes to bed a little bit earlier than I do at night, wakes up a whole lot earlier than I do in the morning. And so that's a difference between us. However, just because that difference of she being a morning person, me being a night person, that's a difference in terms of opposites. Right now. So as I started to say, what adds up, what keeps us consistent together with one another is our values. When our values are consistent with each other, then as a result of that, that's what keeps us connected and tied together. Y'all, we apologize. We really cannot figure out what's going on with this camera, but thank you for tuning in tonight. So Chester, I hope that you were able to get the bulk of that, and hope that that is able to answer some of your questions for tonight. And so I'll close out with this. All right, just for the sake of this, consistency. Consistency is what will help keep us in relationship together with each other. As you look at current culture and you look at what's going on around us in our day and in our time, it's our consistency. So if I had tonight to actually go back and give us a glimpse of the things that we talked about, concept, making sure we have an understanding of relationships and covenants and connections from heaven's perspective and not current culture, character, who you are in terms of who you are in terms of the connection of the relationship makes all the difference in the world. And the last one tonight would simply be consistency. If you can maintain your character consistently and maintain the concept of heaven's perspective consistently, you give yourself a chance in order for the relationship to last for a long time. And so with that being said tonight, thank you for tuning in, but we're going to sign out. We'll come back again and maybe we'll do a pop-up to this where you can actually see us, but we'll come back in again and make sure we finish this out. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Make sure you wake up tomorrow morning early, right at 6 a.m. with Lady, as she'll be on tomorrow night. This has been Second Time Around. I'm Dr. Ray Johnson.
Alitash Johnson.
And we will tune in with you again. Thank you for tuning in. God bless. Bye-bye.